What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Dad Does Videos. We are in one of the rooms in our basement that has 4 recessed lights in the ceiling. We're going to replace those 4 recessed lights with this product. These are Lumary smart disc lights. These are Wi-Fi enabled LED replacements for your recessed lights. Now, even though it says 6 inches here, these can replace 5 and 6 inch recessed lights. They put out 15 watts of power, which makes them really cheap to run. As you can see here, $1.80 per year for each of those lights, but they still put out a lot of brightness, coming in at 1100 lumens. Probably the coolest thing about this product is, look at this. You can create up to 16 million colors for your lights, and they don't all have to be the same color at the same time. Yeah, you could do the standard kind of amber to sterile lights, but you can create one light that's purple, another one that's orange, another one that's red. Let your mind wander. Another cool thing about this product is that you can use your voice assistant to control it. So Alexa from Amazon, Siri from Apple, or your Google Assistant. And if you don't want to use those, that's okay, because Lumary has an app that you can use, and it's probably the best way to actually control your lights. You get the most benefits out of your new Lumary smart disc lights by using the app. But to get all those benefits, you have to install Lumary's smart light switch. It's just a replacement for your light switch that's currently on the wall. You can go old school and use this to control all your lights, in addition to everything that we've already talked about. We're going to show you how to install this thing and use it as well. So let's get started. We are going to unbox our smart disc lights, show you what's inside, and then show you how to install these, and then we're going to demonstrate how to use them. All right, here's a view of what is inside our box of smart disc lights. Of course, we have the 4 lights up top. We've got an instruction manual off to the side there, and down below the lights, we have 4 baggies. Now, I took the materials out of one of the bags, but there's a bag for each light, and within each bag are a couple screws. We've got 3 wire end caps. We've got 2 torsion springs, and we've got a set of wires. Okay, first step, not surprisingly, because anytime you do anything with any kind of electrical work in your house, you want to turn off the power to the room that you are working in. As you saw earlier, we already have recessed lights installed in the room that we are going to switch to the smart disc lights. Now, there are 2 ways to install. We have the retrofit way, which we are going to do right now, which means just replacing our current setup with the new setup with the smart disc lights. Now, if you're installing something brand new and you're putting in recessed lighting, you can certainly do that with these lights, but we are not going to showcase that because that's not our situation. But let's get started with our retrofit install. The first thing we're going to have to do is just simply remove the light that we have installed. Simple counterclockwise twist, it pops out. Now we're going to remove the 2 coils that you see, one right here and one right here. Those things hold up the housing and the trim that goes around the housing. These things are really, really tight, so be careful when you're taking them down. For me personally, the easiest way to do this is to grab some needle nose pliers and grab the bottom of the coil or the spring right there and gently pull out of the little hole. Okay, so after you have removed those coils or the springs along with the housing and the trim, you should be left with something like this if your setup is similar to mine. Next, we're just going to remove the cover of the light, and you just kind of put your hand over top and grip it gently and twist counterclockwise until it stops. So it stopped, and it just should pop right out. Taking the light off the cover then allows us the access that we need so we can attach our 2 torsion springs. These are really easy to attach. You simply want to grab a Phillips head screwdriver, something like this, so that we could loosen the screw right here. We're not going to take it all the way out. We're just going to loosen it so that we could slip it into the light. So you can see it's not all the way out, but I've got a little space there, so it'll allow us to slip it right into the light. So we grab our light, and of course, this is the face of the light. We just remove the cover from this side. So we're just going to flip this around, and these two spots are where the torsion springs connect. So we are going to grab the spring that we just had in our hand where we loosened the screw and put that screw right in this little hole right here and then slide it right up. So in, slide it up. And if you notice, this part is on the outside of the light. So we grab our screwdriver and then we have to flip it around so that we can access the screw, and we just tighten. And this is, if you're wondering, you'll have a little bit of play here so that when we attach the torsion spring or the clips to the recessed light housing, you'll be able to play around with this. And if you don't have any play, just gently loosen the screw. We're going to put the other one on the other side and we'll be ready to go. Okay, now that we have our two torsion springs attached, it is time for us to put our cover back on. And if you didn't notice already, there are 3 tabs on this thing. There's one right here, and one right there. And those simply fit right in to the 3 holes around the inside of our light. So it doesn't really matter how you put this cover back on. You're just going to gently twist all the way to the right until those tabs fit into those slots. And you heard it hit those slots. And once you hear that and feel that, you just twist a little bit more to the right. And then it's back on. So the green wire on the back of your light is the ground wire. Now, we do not have a ground wire coming out of our recessed light housing, so we are going to just cap this. I specifically checked with the Lumary folks to make sure that was the case, since there's nothing for me to connect this to, so I'm just going to attach a wire nut to the end of this. And if you're unfamiliar with how to do this, you just slip this right on to the end of the wire and twist. And you'll feel it tightening up. And this is what you're left with. You should be able to gently pull and it won't come off. Now, if you have some electrical tape, you could certainly wrap some electrical tape around the nut and the wire to make sure it stays secure, but there's really no reason to do that. But if you want to stay extra cautious, you can certainly do that. Now we're right at the part of the installation where you need to figure out how you are going to connect the wires from the new lights from Lumary to your existing setup if, again, you are going about this with a retrofit hookup. There are a few different ways to do this. I'm going to walk you through a couple that I chose not to use, and then the one that I chose to use. There are probably a few others that I'm just not aware of, and maybe someone will chime in with some other ideas to hook these up. Well, the first way to consider connecting the Lumary lights to your wiring that exists in your housing already is to completely cut out your socket that you see right here. And when I say cut out your socket, I really mean remove that socket. And the way that you do that is you cut the black wire, you cut the white wire. There's a little screw that holds your socket in place. You remove that as well, so the socket completely comes out. I didn't want to do that because I thought, one, that's too much work. And then secondly, I might want to go back to that socket one day, and it seems odd to cut that out right now and completely remove that capability in the future. Now, if you're doing this, you probably have some basic skills in electricity, right? You're gonna cut the wires, you're gonna remove some of the the wire cover to showcase the copper that's underneath as well. Now, if you choose to go down that path, you would simply connect the black wire coming from your new light to the black wire that's coming out of your housing. Same thing with the white wire here and the white wire to the housing. And then you would use a wire nut to make the connection secure. So both wires, both black wires would be together. You would screw the wire nut on top of both black wires so they were securely fastened to each other inside the nut. And then the same thing with the white wires as well. Another way to make the connections between the Lumary lights and your housing wires is to use the adapter that Lumary provides with each light. Now, if you don't know, you can actually remove the black and white wires attached to this. You just use a small flathead screwdriver right here and put this in the slot where the wire's coming out of. I'm going to try to do this as I'm talking. You press down and you should be able to pull a wire out, just like that. So if you do this to both sides and you get both wires out, you still have the adapter, so you can use this and attach it to the black and white wires that are coming out of your light, and then attach the wires coming from your housing into the other side of the adapter. So let me show you what it'll look like. So we have our free adapter now. We would just slip the black wire into the positive side, like so. As you can see, that's not coming loose. And we do the same thing on the other side with the white wire. And then, if we can pretend for a second that this white wire is the white wire in our housing, we just slide that in to the other side of the adapter. And again, I'm pulling on this and it's not coming out. And we do the same thing with the black wire coming from our housing, like so. Then you've got this setup. So this is just a little bit more convenient than attaching the wires with a wire nuts, maybe throwing some electrical tape on there. The adapters make this possible. And now let me show you what I did. And I guess if you're counting and playing along, this is the third way to hook up these lights. I bought an additional product from a company called Lumary, and it's another type of adapter, and they were actually pretty cheap. I'll put the link in the description and I'll pin the comment, but I got 6 of these pairs of wires. I think it was like $8 or $9, something like that. But as you can see here, this is where the magic happens right here. So we keep our socket in the housing. We simply screw this part into the socket. We've got the adapter at the end, and we pop this end of the adapter off of these wires as we showed you before using that flathead screwdriver, and then we simply attach this part to the wires coming out of our light, and then we connect the two. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so we're gonna grab this piece as we talked about earlier and simply screw this part into the socket right there. And it's just like screwing in a light bulb. As you can see, this piece of the adapter hangs down. Next, we are going to remove these wires from this connector right here. And again, all you need is a small flathead screwdriver, and you simply press in on the opposite side of where the wire is inserted. And when I say the opposite side, I'm not sure if it's coming in great on the video, but you can see the wires are kind of on the bottom part of this contraption. So we're just gonna press over top and the wire typically comes right out. Press that Phillips head screwdriver in and you should feel it move the wire as you press it in. And as you can see, the white wire just pops right out. We're gonna do the same thing with the black wire. Again, press in, and the black wire pops right out. Now we grab our light, and we've got our connector, and we are going to connect the black wire to the positive side. Hopefully you can see the plus right there, and then the white wire to the negative side with the minus. Now I'm showing you these, but the wires actually go on the other side. Make sure we got our black wire, got the positive side, and all you do is insert these like that. As you can see, I'm pulling pretty hard, and these are not coming out. Same thing with the white wire, put it in, pretty secure. Then we just simply connect the two orange pieces. They'll slide right in and snap, as you just heard, and our wires are connected. Now let's talk about connecting the torsion springs, because these are the magical items that actually hold your light in place. You should have, if your setup is like mine, 2 sets of clips on either side of the can. We've got this piece right here, these clips, and then on the other side, right here. I like to pull these little hooks out a little bit. It makes it easier for the torsion springs to slide in. So I'm going to pull those out a little bit on both sides. You can see that one's way out, which I love. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, let me show you how to slide the tension springs into the hooks. And these have a ton of tension on them. I'm pressing pretty hard on them right now, but you just need to slide each side into each side of the hooks that are in there. So we just push one in, and we get another one in, just like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll push this up so you can see how that works. Get our wires out of the way, got the other side locked in, and now all we have to do is press up on our lights. Now that we've got all of our lights installed, we have to move on to the actual light switch, because as we talked about earlier, we are going to install the special Lumary smart light switch. Let's take a peek inside. And by the way, power is still off, folks. All right, so here is a look at what's inside that smart light switch box. We've got the actual switch right here. We've got the faceplate. We've got some wire labels, a pairing guide, and then some wire nuts, and along with a couple screws. All right, so let's get started with the installation of this new light switch. First things first, with the power still out, we are going to remove our light switch from the wall. But don't completely disconnect your current wall switch just yet. You just need to have access to the 2 wires that should be coming out of the wall. So as you can see, we've still got ours connected to the wall. We took the faceplate off, but we need to have access to these 2 black wires, because we need to figure out which one of those is the line wire or the hot wire, and which one is the load wire, because we need to label them correctly and then hook them up to the Lumary smart switch correctly. So the way you do that is you just grab a voltage tester pen. This is the one that I have, and just going to hit the wires with the edge, or I guess the end of my pen. If nothing happens, that means it's the load wire. If my pen blinks red and starts making noises, that means it's the hot wire or the line wire. So we've got nothing there. And the other one, there it is. So that bottom one in our situation is the hot wire or the line wire. We are going to label that as such. This green wire, the other one that's coming out, is just our ground wire, and it is attached to the copper ground wire that is going into the outlet. So I'm going to label those as appropriate with the labels that came with the smart switch. Before I start to label them, this is the point where you can turn and should turn that power back off since we are going to be completely disconnecting the current switch from these wires. All right, as you can see here, we've got our line wire labeled right here. We put the little sticky label on it from the box that our smart switch came from, and then we've got our ground wire up here labeled. I didn't feel the need to label the other black wire because that's the only one left. The important thing is to just know that this is the hot wire right here. So again, our electricity is off to this room. We are going to disconnect our current switch so that we just have the wires from the wall coming out of the space right here. If you do have any wire nuts like this one right here, the easiest way to remove those is just to simply twist counterclockwise. It should pop right off of the wires, and then you just disconnect the wires from one another. It's like that. Now we are going to grab our smart switch and connect all these wires to the appropriate wires coming out of the wall. As you can see on the bottom of the switch, each wire is labeled so you know which wire to connect it to that's coming out of the wall. And that is why we labeled the wires like we did in the previous step, so you know which wire coming out of the wall goes to which wire coming out of the smart switch. All right, one more word of advice before we connect our smart switch to the wires coming out of the wall. The Lumary smart switch needs a neutral wire for it to function. If you were paying attention and noticed that there was no free white wire or neutral wire coming out of my wall when we disconnected the other switch, you would be right, but fear not. We are in good shape because I have a bundle of neutral wires right here connected to this wire nut. So all we have to do is remove the wire nut from this bundle and then connect the white wire from our smart switch into this bundle and put the wire nut back on so all those wires are connected. I've connected some of the wires already with the wire nuts that came with the smart switch, but if you're unfamiliar with how to connect wires, you just put the two you're connecting right next to each other, like I have right here. Grab a nut and then twist the nut on while holding the wires in place. It'll start to get really hard to twist. That means you're typically in good shape. And then I like to double check to make sure they are nice and tight. Okay, so as you can see, we are all set up. Everything's connected. We taped up the connections just to make sure they stay in place when we push everything back into the wall. And then use the screws that came with our smart switch to connect or secure the switch to the wall. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our switch attached to the wall, and it's almost there. I didn't screw this all the way in because one of the things that I like to do when I'm installing things like this is to grab a level to make sure this thing is straight up and down. I can't stand looking at switches and they're crooked. So we're just gonna put this up next to our switch, and it is, you probably can't see it on the video that well, but it is a little off right here. So we're gonna make sure to kind of loosen this and line it up a little bit better, make sure it's level before we lock it in place. Once you're happy with the position of your switch, you just grab the faceplate that came with the product and just pop it right over top. It'll snap right in. Okay, so now that we've got everything hooked up with our switch, we went and turned the power back on to the room, and we're just gonna hit the bottom button here on the switch that says power on off, and then hopefully our lights come on. If they do, we're just gonna push that again to turn them off because I want to download the Lumary app next so we can move forward with that step. So here we go. Whoa, and it got a ton brighter in here. So we're just gonna turn those back off, and this is what they do. If you could see on camera, the lights are kind of flashing on and off, and that just means they are ready for pairing. Okay, so you can do the pairing of the lights to the switch without getting the app, but I'm gonna want the app anyway, so I figured I might as well just do that. I have an iPhone, so I'm in the app store. I'm just if I could spell, that would be helpful. Just type Lumary in, that first one, and there it is. And once you've got it downloaded, you just have to hit that sign up button and go through the registration process to create an account. Okay, so we turn the lights on again, and they are flashing in my home, or breathing, as Lumary likes to call it. But I thought I'd show you what's going on the app, because at this point, that's probably more useful. I went through the registration process, created an account, made sure my Bluetooth is on my phone. We're gonna hit all devices up here and then click add device. And it looks like the app is discovering the 4 lights, as you could see in that box where it says discovering devices. So I'm just gonna hit add. So after you pick your Wi-Fi network and then add your password, you'll see as the first one on the list is doing, the Lumary app starts to connect to each one. I don't think you need to watch this, so we'll move along after we get through all of these lights being connected. So it appears, as you can see on the screen here, all of my lights have been connected. We're gonna hit the done button. So the first question I ask myself when I'm in here is, oh my gosh, I've got to rename these. These are really easy to rename. That way you can remind yourself which one is which. So you just click on the name of them right now. So in my case, this first one is what, USDS6A. And then click the little on the upper right-hand corner, looks like a little pencil or pen. And then again, you click the same thing on this page, and then click on its current name, and then you can rename the device. So we have all of our devices named, as you can see here. And I'm gonna give you guys some examples of what these look like, but these are really easy to control individually. You can turn them on and off just by pressing the green button. So for back left, you just click the green button, and I know you can't see this, but it turns off. Turn it back on. You just click in the box, and then they have 3 pre-set up lights at the top of the screen. So you can click on the far left button that makes the light a little ambery. In the middle, it's kind of in between. And then on the far right, it's very bright and more on the sterile side. At the bottom, you can go into scene and then play with all of these preset scenes, which changes the color of your lights. And again, we'll show you this. But I wanted to show you what I was clicking on the app so you could get a better understanding of how the app actually works. If you ever are confused and you're in the app and you're clicking all these buttons and your light is changing all these different cool colors, and if you just want to go back to the normal, you just click dimmer at the bottom of the screen and it goes back to your general white light, and then you can play with the buttons at the top or move around the little circle and you can pick your own light. Let me also show you how to create a group of lights so you can control a bunch of lights together. And I would assume you'd probably want to do this if you're doing something like I did, where you put all of these in one room, because it's going to be rare that you want to control each light individually. So you just pick a light that you want to add to the group, and you click on the pencil in the upper right-hand corner, and you will see the option to create group. So I click on that, and as you can see, it added it to my group. And we also have the opportunity below that back left light that's already added to the group to simply add the other ones as well. So we just click the plus, and these are all added to our new group. And of course, we are going to name our group. So I guess we'll call it basement group. And once you have all those lights in a group, you can see at the bottom of my list of lights here, we've got our newly named group. We can just go right into that. Press the bottom of the screen on the power on button, and our lights turn on. And I know you can't see this, but I'm going to show it. Then you could use the controls at the bottom of the screen, just like the individual lights, and go into any of these predetermined settings to use them as you see fit. The controls are exactly the same. You can even go into the music setting and then press start if you have some music going, and your lights will start to kind of dance around based on the rhythm of the music that the lights sense. And I'll demo this as well. If you want to change the colors of all the lights in the basement group that we have, or if you wanted to do that with one of your lights, you just click on the light, or in our case, the basement group. And then if you're in one of these different scenes, you just click on the little pencil, and then you could see the wheel pops up, and you could switch to color and then move the circle all over the place to set your lights on whatever color that you want. You could even save your scene as well if you wanted to, so you can just bring that back up easily later. So I'm going to turn all my basement group lights on via the app. And then just to demo a little bit of what the app can do and all the different lighting settings, we just moved our lights to a more of an ambery kind of setup. We're going to go into the middle and then back to the full 100% lighting. And now these are the different scenes. So I'm on the soft scene right now. Let's move to gorgeous. You can see the lights changing, and some of these scenes stay kind of with steady lights. Some of them have different settings where the lights kind of move to different colors as you go, but it's really a pretty cool setup. I'm on violet right now, and as you can see, they've moved to a more of a purple. And this is one that apparently is pretty steady, right? Violet means violet. We're just going to stay with the violet. But other ones, like I said, they move along, right? We've got Diwali, and this one looks like it's going to kind of change colors as we go. And I'm going to demo some music as well and let you see how the lights dance around to the music. Right, let's test out the Google functionality. As I stated at the top of the video, you can connect these lights to Alexa and to Google and to Siri on Apple. So I have my Google device near me. I'm going to ask it to turn off a light and see what happens. Hey Google, turn off back left light.
Got it. Turning off the back left.
Hey Google, turn on back left light. I'm not sure why it popped up as red, but you can see the functionalities there so that you could use your voice-controlled devices to turn these on and off. So now we are in the read scene, and I'm just going to use the pencil up on the corner and go into the color wheel and adjust this to whatever color I want. And we're going to go down to kind of the orange yellowy kind of realm. And as you can see, it adjusts perfectly. And honestly, I haven't even scratched the surface on all the different functionality the app has. You can turn your lights on or off or set different scenes based on the weather or when you leave the house or the time of day. All different things like that I'm going to have to explore and get just a little bit more comfortable with. Now we're going to set up our wall switch so that we can use this as another avenue to control the lights in addition to the app. So our lights are on. I turn them on using the app, but we're going to turn them off by hitting the bottom button on the wall switch. And we're going to wait 5 seconds and then turn them on again using that bottom button on the wall switch, and then hold this next button up for 5 seconds. and they should start to pulse or breathe. That's when we know they're connected. There we go. Now that our wall switch is set up, we can use that to control the lights. Turn off, turn back on by hitting that bottom button. You can scroll through the 8 preset scenes by clicking the scene button, and hopefully in the background you can tell my lights are moving, especially with this. Now we're green, a deep red, and we just keep going, an even deeper red, and then kind of a multitude of colors that are flashing all at once. And then we're back to normal. Then we could use the buttons on the side for kind of lower light and then higher light. And if we hit the RGB button in the middle, that basically rotates around the colors of the rainbow. As you can see, we start with orange, it'll go to yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then it should go to red. And then lastly, the CCT button up here just changes the color temperature of your lights. So you can start at that kind of ambery temperature at 2700 and then gently work our way up to the more sterile lights at the top of the scale at 5000, and then we're back to amber.